So just before we start the frame for the wings, maybe I thought it would be nice to show all of the pieces of the plane, that we actually have everything ready to go. So I think I have that in the frame there for you to see. We have the complete set of lower and upper wings that we finished gluing with the ribs on there, ready to go. We've got the fuselage with the cowling, magnets that clips on and off nicely. We've got our wheels painted silver with the rubber tires on them. Elevator, which is green, a green that I think matches kind of the flying plane replica that I've got in the playlist that you can look at on this video's in a playlist, and the playlist includes a video of a real flying replica of a Sopwith pup, one that has this kind of red cover at the front, and also shows a green elevator and the yellow or ivory colored rudder. So and then we have the flaps for with the control horn, and we have the rudder with its control horn. I haven't put the hinges on yet. I'll be leaving that until final assembly of those pieces, which is coming up. So there's all the pieces. So now what we need to do is sort of put those aside, ready for, we basically just need to build a frame around the front of the fuselage here, and that frame will then basically, we'll be able to slot the wings on and everything will come together fairly quickly. So in terms of building the frame, we're starting to use some of the pieces that are on here. The board, this is the harder wood board that comes with your model kit, and we'll be using piece U, which is this piece here, and piece T. So the two pieces T actually. So T, which are here on your layout before I clip them out, T and U. T, the two T's will actually sit up here, and the U forms a frame over the top of the fuselage. And then we will pop out also at the same time while I'm doing that, I'll pop out the two V pieces. So the V's are the frames that you can see here. And the two V pieces will be the bracing that holds the upper and the lower wings together. So once we have those two pieces out, those 5 pieces out, I beg your pardon, then we'll be ready to start putting the frame onto the plane. So I'll pop those out, and then I'll come back and talk through putting the frame onto the plane. So I've built the frame for the wings. It's actually pretty straightforward. There's not really that much tricky to pay attention to, but I'll mention just a couple of little things. The first one is to make sure to dry fit this top spar here to the two side pieces. This is U and these are both T. They need to slide in nice and cleanly into these two slots here, and on my kit out of the box they didn't quite fit cleanly, and they needed a bit of cleaning up, and pretty much all I did was sand back the two sides of the U where the slots are and the two sides of the T where the slots are, until I got that sliding right into place. And the other thing is the screws. So there's if you can see, there's screws going into the base of these to screw the bottom of the frame into those J pieces on the top of the fuselage. Now it's not clear from the diagram actually whether the screw should go in from the top or the bottom. I recommend from the bottom, based on just a little bit of fiddling around that I did. If you can see here, maybe it's not so clear, but just because of the angle of those J joints, there's actually slightly less space here to connect that piece onto the frame than there is on the bottom. Just because of the angle, there's actually slightly more space. And I found that in order to get the screws to go cleanly through the pre-drilled holes, it didn't quite fit if I put it on the top versus on the bottom. I'm fairly sure the diagram on the picture in the instructions shows from the bottom, but from what I can see from the bottom makes a lot of sense. and I'm not sure that it makes much difference to the aesthetics of it. You do get a kind of a nicer screw look on the outside rather than just having a little piece of metal sticking out, but which will be mostly hidden by the wings over the top in any case, so it doesn't make a lot of difference. Also, just a hint, I mean, you may not need to do this, but what I find when you're doing something like putting these screws in is, if you noticed, I haven't tightened them all the way yet. It gives you a little bit of flexibility to do things like the adjustments you need when you want to get this on, or you want to put on this top piece, just to make sure that everything's going to fit into place. So what I intend to do now is I'm going to glue the spar, then I'm going to glue this top piece in, which fits on here like this. Once I've done that, then I'll tighten the screws. And once I've and then after that, it'll be time to actually assemble the wings onto the plane. So I'll put these pieces together, and then I'll come back before putting the wings on. We're making great progress here. The fuselage with the top frame is now ready, and it's time to put on the wings. So the two bottom wings are the ones with the slots in here like this. They're the bottom wings. You can also tell because they're bigger than the upper wings. And the upper wings are the ones that go on here. So the difference is that the lower wing slots go onto that slot here, and I'll show you how that needs to fit on. And then the upper wings will click on here, and what we'll need to do with the lower wings is brace it with this frame here. So it's pretty much going to be something that we all want to do in one shot. Have everything ready and then put the wings in all together in one shot, because until the lower wings are connected to the upper wings and the upper wings are connected back to the top, it's actually going to be quite fragile. So it's not something where I want to leave the lower wings, for example, connected and then come back later, or maybe try to do the frame or something like that. It's going to be really important that all of the wings go in together, and also just because of how the wings actually connect in together, I really think that super glue is essential. This is not really, I've dry fit the wings in here to see how they're going to go together. And it's not something where, if we used, for example, the wood glue, it would be possible to let it to dry without holding it. It's going to have to be held carefully in place till it dries, and so it's going to be a super glue situation. So I'm going to actually do this now. What we're going to do is first one wing at a time, do the bottom wings, and I think I might do but one side at a time. Now I'm sort of thinking on the fly a bit, but it makes a lot more sense because of what I said about it being fragile. If I fit the bottom wing on here, the only thing that's holding it on is this little bracket here. And then if I try to do the other side, then I run the risk that, you know, I can break something. So I'm going to fit the bottom wing, glue that, fit the brace, glue on the top wing, and then wait for that to set, and then I'll fit the second side. So the other thing to note about how the wings go together here is there's a kind of an intricate little connection here with how that slot goes in on the wing here. And it's not that complicated, but you have to get it right, and you can't just slide it in because it won't quite work like that. What actually ends up happening is this tiny little pointed edge here on the base of the plane of that bracket, that ends up sliding through this slot and then coming back up over and then lying against the wing here. So what I'm going to want to do is put it in at an angle and then turn it down so that it slides onto that slot there, and then once I get it even, then I need to push it in so that these 4 tags slide into their little slots. The other interesting thing, because what I did before with the dry fitting that I did, is the interesting thing about the slots is just because of, remember that this was originally a flat piece of wood. So once it's been bent over, those slots are now at an angle like this. This wing, especially because of this dihedral here, is coming in at an angle opposite to it. So they actually don't quite line up in terms of how they fit together. And what will happen is that they'll line up and look perfect on the top. On the bottom, they're actually going to sort of stick out a little bit, and I believe that's by design. I think that's the way it needs to be. There's no benefit really to, for example, trying to carve out the slots and make them fit the dihedral size, because the edges of the wings here will run up against the edge of the fuselage here, and it won't change anything. So all we're going to do, so what I'm going to do is let's do it right now as we speak, doing it live. So make sure that slot, that tag goes in behind the rib on the wing there, and then just turn it down so that slot that goes into the slot is a little more trickier than it needs to be, because I'm trying to show you. So otherwise I could just move it down. Now what I've found also is to get so that's basically straight, right, and it lines up with the top of that spar there, and once that's there, those things just slot in quite nicely, right? It's really quite sweet once it goes together. So now what I'll do is I'll run a bead of super glue along here, and the only thing to note is that just at the ends, the front end, or I've got the top of the plane getting in the way here, the front end of the wing, based on how that runs, is slightly away from the edge of the plane. So what I want to do is want to get it lined up, get everything in place, push together, and pretty much hold it in place so that is against the plane for the 45 or so seconds that it'll take for the super glue to bond. And at the back, it seems there is a gap at the back, and I think there will be a gap at the back, and I don't think there's anything we can do about that. The fuselage just curves away from the line of the wing, and it's either by design or a mistake in the cutting, but I don't think there's much that could be done about that, rather than, and for such a small thing, I don't think it's that important. Unless you're really finicky, you'll probably never notice once it's finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the glue. So be very careful here, just to try and get the glue into that gap here. The idea is to have it sort of wick through into the slots, the gaps here. So for maybe one little thing that I want to do, which is to get I need to get some glue here, and I guess I should have done that first. It's going to have to come out. I do want to get some glue onto this piece here, so that piece will stick down onto the wing. So let's just do that. It folds around. Yeah, it's all should have been done first. Folds around. Oh, great. And it's perfectly in place. Click it again down against there, and then hold it so that it is hard up against the fuselage, and we're good.